John Kirby is the Strategic Communications Coordinator for the White House National Security Council and joins me now. John Kirby, Motorcade City, totally blocked. You and I have been walking back and forth, east to west, east side, west side, all around the town.
It's easier to just walk.
And it's impossible to know what streets are going to be closed.
At any given hour, yeah.
But I think it was a show-stopping speech for the President of the United States. I have to say, we've seen him in a lot of different contexts, but he is the only permanent member of the UN Security Council who is here. Yeah. The other leaders chose not to come for a variety of reasons, allies and foes, and competitors, if you take China out of the foe category. So he has the stage to himself.
The president was very much looking forward to the General Assembly this year, and he spent a lot of time on those remarks, as you might imagine. And, of course, he's got some significant meetings here today and tomorrow that he's looking forward to. He thinks that the UN provides a terrific venue to really try to tackle these kinds of problems, the kind of problems that people around the world are facing. And it's a chance to show U.S. leadership on the world stage, and that's what he did today.
One of the things that he was trying to do is, again, reach out to China. We know that Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, as my colleague Carol Lee broke over the weekend, went to Malta to meet with Wang Yi, the foreign policy leader of China. And is there any progress towards a meeting between the two? In February, the president said he was going to be talking to President Xi soon and meeting with him, and all the way in September, October, this still hasn't happened.
There's not a meeting or a discussion on the schedule right now, Andrea, but we believe we're working towards that.
Is he coming in November for the APEC to San Francisco?
Don't know. The Chinese haven't made a decision, or if they have, they haven't announced it, so we're not sure. Obviously, he's certainly welcome to come. We would appreciate having his attendance there. The president said he was disappointed that President Xi couldn't make it to the G20 in New Delhi just a few weeks ago. There's going to be plenty of opportunity, though, for us to continue to engage the PRC. And even though there hasn't been a presidential discussion since the G20 in Bali a year or so ago, that there has been an opening up of the lines of communication between China and the United States.
But you had to open them because they shut down completely, frankly, after the Taiwan visit, last year by the speaker at the time. But then after the spy balloon was shut down, and then the military communications were cut off now for just about a year, military to military, which is really extraordinary. There's no basic hotline going on. And we haven't seen, the world hasn't seen the defense minister for weeks and weeks. There are credible reports that President Xi chewed out his military during the spy balloon fiasco because he was caught off guard.
Well, I can't confirm those reports on what happened there in Beijing with respect to the balloon. But look, you're right, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat that. Our relations sort of took a dip there after that spy balloon, and we had to shoot that down. The president made the right decision. But we have labored hard, both sides, to be fair, have labored hard to get the lines of communication back open again. Secretary Blinken has been, Secretary Raimondo, Yellen. Special Envoy Kerry has been, and now, of course, Jake has had a chance to go to Malta and meet with his counterparts. So it's not as if, even though the two presidents haven't spoken, it's not as if there isn't any communication going on. You make a really good point, and it's fair, about the military-to-military communication, and that's really the line that we want to get back open. I know Secretary Austin feels very strongly about doing that, and we just haven't been able to crack that egg yet. Because when you look at the tensions in the Indo-Pacific, and particularly around the Taiwan Strait, it is in the military realm where the risk of miscalculation is the greatest. So we really want to get that line back open.
And they have still not literally crossed a line by arming Russia for Ukraine, even though there's some indication that Chinese, partly government-owned corporations are providing military dual-use parts.
That's right. We have not seen the PLA.
Their military.
Their military has not provided arms and ammunition or lethal capabilities, as we like to say, to the Russian armed forces.
But Russia, of course, is the major threat. And what Secretary Austin said today in Ramstein, Germany, at a defense ministers' meeting on Ukraine, is that Ukraine has recovered 54% of the territory Russia took. That's or rather, the Joint Chiefs Chairman Milley said it. I'm sorry, not Secretary Austin. But in any case, the fact is that's not as much as we had hoped. in terms of breaking through those Russian lines by now?
It's not as much as the Ukrainians had hoped by this time after their counteroffensive kicked off in the summertime. President Zelensky would be the first to tell you that. They haven't gone as far as fast as they want to. That said, in the last couple of weeks or so, they have really been able to make a steady level of progress. It is still slow. We all knew it was going to be a slog. The Russians had months to build massive defensive lines and entrenchments and put in place artillery positions where they could keep the Ukrainians tied down. So we knew this was going to be a tough fight. But they are making progress. They have adjusted their efforts more towards one line of effort, or they've prioritized at least one line of effort. And they are starting to make some progress there.
Let me ask you about the F-35. How does the U.S. military lose a $100 million plane?
That will be something that they will investigate. Believe me, after every aviation mishap, the Pentagon does what the Pentagon does. They'll investigate it to try to get the answers on what happened. And they'll also, I'm sure, look at their own search and recovery efforts of the aircraft itself to see whether that was conducted in all the appropriate ways. They'll investigate this. And as the Defense Department always does, they'll be transparent about it when they find the answers.
But of course, it'll be an acting Marine commandant leading that investigation, not a Marine commandant, because we don't have a confirmed Marine commandant for the first time since maybe 1895.
Well, right. It's been 150 years, something like that.
Senator Tuberville is responsible for that.
Yes, he is. Now, so two things. I mean, the investigation will be able to proceed appropriately with or without a Senate-confirmed commandant. I want to be clear about that. But what Senator Tuberville is doing is absolutely having an effect on our national security. It's not just the commandant, right? It's the head of the Navy. It's the head of the Army. All those are in acting capacities. And when you're an acting officer like that, an acting four-star, not only are you doing two really big, important jobs, you're the assistant leader of this branch of the armed forces and the acting leader of it, but some of your authorities are not fulsome. You can't do everything that a Senate-confirmed head of an armed service could do. So it can have an impact on your ability to actually do the job.
And it will be on October 1st, if this continues, also the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Before we go, let me ask you how our 5 Americans are doing. And the family reunion, what are you hearing? What is the president hearing?
Well, you've seen the video yourself. I mean, it's just heartwarming, the reunion, just to see that. What we understand, Andrea, is that they're all in relatively good health. I want to be careful there because we still want to give them the medical care that they deserve. We'll see what that looks like. All of them went through a terrible, terrible ordeal. We want to make sure that they have all the resources, mental health care as well, to handle this integration back into society. But we're so happy to see those images, so happy to see them back with their families where they belong.
I sat for an hour with President Raisi along with other journalists off camera yesterday. He's going to give a speech later today. What do you want to hear from him?
Well, what we'd like to hear from President Raisi is that Iran will stop these destabilizing behaviors, stop wrongfully detaining Americans and other foreigners, and be a responsible actor on the world stage and in the region. I doubt we're going to hear that from President Raisi. So what we're going to do, regardless of what he says today, is we're going to keep the pressure up on Iran. We're going to keep pushing back on these behaviors, the maritime attacks in the Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, the support for terrorist networks, and, of course, providing drones, continuing to provide drones to Mr. Putin for this war in Ukraine. We're going to continue to hold them accountable for all that behavior.